How many times do you think she told you she's not leaving after you asked her to leave?
But she's running background checks on me, following me on social media, reaching out to...
He's the real danger. When their entire petition is about I'm so-called This drunk. Is going to end up in a bad scenario.
Aaron Barrett, why don't you come on up to the table there? And Karina Harris.
In today's case, a man wants a restraining order against his neighbor, and he's come to court with a boatload of allegations. She's not having it and claims if anyone needs protection, it's her. With both sides doubling down on their accusations, the judge has to sort through the mess. And let's just say someone's version of events isn't adding up.
And this is Mr. Barrett has received a temporary restraining order against Ms. Harris, and that's the hearing today. So, Mr. Barrett, why don't you stand up with me, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, have a seat. And Ms. Harris, you'd raise your right hand with me. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
All right. And this involves also several of your children that we included, Mr. Barrett, in the temporary order. So back to you then, Mr. Barrett. What would you like to say on this?
So back in September, October was my first interaction with her. She came to my property about my dogs, supposedly being on her property. And she showed me a video of a long-haired German Shepherd, which didn't exactly match my dog's description. But we talked about it, and she asked what I was going to do about it because I don't have a fenced-in yard. So I told her that when time and money allows, I would get a barrier put up. So if it was my dogs that went on her property, it wouldn't happen again. And then after that incident, there was several times that my wife and I were not home, and we heard from the neighbors that she was sitting in our driveway while there was no vehicles there. There was no indication that anybody was home, and she was just sitting parked in our driveway. And we have a very long driveway to get down, so she was sitting in front of our house. So I heard from the neighbors about that. And then also one time my father was home, and she came on two different instances when my dogs were inside in the kennel all day with my dad, that she was there sitting in our driveway, not coming to the door, not doing anything, just sitting there.
This is not a shared driveway, is it?
No,
she doesn't need to use it.
It's my private driveway that she has no business down the driveway.
But nobody else needs to use it to get to their own property.
Nope.
Okay.
It's just my property.
All right.
Access for one residence.
All right.
And so then that happened. And then animal control was called. They came and talked to us. We were not issued any warning because they said she didn't provide any proof. They met our dogs. They actually physically petted our dogs.
What's the deal with her, though? Why are you asking for this protection?
From February 24th. So February 24th, I got home probably about 1:30 in the afternoon. And I heard this honking, and I'm like, what is that? And Miss Harris's vehicle was in my driveway holding the horn down. So I went out, I opened the door, and she starts yelling from her window, "Are your dogs with you?" And I said, "Yes, my dogs are with me. They're in the house." And I started walking up to her. I'm like, as far as I know, they've been in the house. I apologize if they were out. And as soon as I finished speaking, she started screaming at me. So I said, she was screaming and cursing. So I said, "Hold up. This is not going to go this way on my property. You need to leave." And she said, "No, I'm not leaving until you talk to me." I said, "No, I'm not going to let you disrespect me on my own property." So I said, "You need to leave or I will call the sheriff." And she refused to leave. So I went inside to grab my phone, which I have videos, but I wasn't able to figure out how to submit them. They're too large.
Tell me about it.
But so I went in the house, and when I closed the door, she's laying on the horn. I called the sheriff, told them what's going on. They said they were going to send somebody out. So she's constantly laying on the horn. My kids are crying, freaking out. "What's going on, Dad?" So I go back outside, and I'm like, I'm going to film her doing this. So I filmed her. I walked around her vehicle, got her plate number.
So you went inside. Did you call the sheriff?
Yes, I went inside and called the sheriff, and the whole time she's laying on her horn. So I went back out there to film this. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe because I have a long driveway, like I said, I'm going to go wait at the end of the driveway for the sheriff, and maybe that will entice her to leave my property. Because she kept saying, "I'm not leaving until you talk to me." I said, "I'm not talking to you, so leave."
How many times do you think she told you she's not leaving after you asked her to leave?
I would say at least half a dozen to a dozen.
Okay.
She was just flat out refusing. And I told her, like, we're not talking, so you need to leave. Your trespass. I even used the word trespass.
And when when you say initially, are your dogs with you? She's hollering, and then after that, there was cursing.
There was no
said?
attempt at cordial communication.
Do you know what she said? Did she make any threats to harm you or your person or your
It started with, you need to F in, and as soon as that left her mouth, I shut down. I said, this is not going to happen. You need to leave. And
so
she just started screaming.
Threats to harm you, your property, or your children yet at that point?
No, she wasn't. She didn't threaten, but she refused to leave.
Okay. All right.
So and then
kids are upset. You've called
the sheriff. I go sit at the end of the driveway, and I'm sitting next to the driveway, so she could clearly leave. I was blocking my neighbor's driveway at that point.
Are you just sitting yourself or in a car?
I'm in my vehicle. I got my vehicle and drove to the end of the driveway.
Okay.
She lives across the street.
You drove. How do you drive if she's in your driveway?
So I have so you come down my driveway, then it opens up, and there's a big parking area. You can go behind my house. I have 2 acres, so you can go all the way to the back of the property. You can go all the way to the front, but there's a big parking area in front of the house where all the cars are. So there's enough room to have several vehicles and turn around.
Okay. So you could drive around this person in your driveway.
Yeah, she was sitting here. My vehicle was sitting here in front of my house. I had plenty of room to back out. I backed all the way down the driveway and blocked the neighbor's driveway, so she could leave. She was free to leave to wait for the sheriff. Well, then she pulls up and blocks my gate, my driveway, so I can't even get into my property now. And I said, "You need to leave. This is illegal." So she's actively blocking my driveway.
Okay, so let me understand how that works. So she's in your driveway, and then how did she?
So I'm sitting at the end, right by the road. She comes, and I have a gate. Well, there's no longer a gate there, but there's 2 posts where there used to be a gate. So there's only room for 1 vehicle to get through. Okay. She comes and sits right there, so nobody could get in or out.
Perpendicular to that?
No, she just pulled. So here's the 2 posts. She comes, just sitting right in the middle of the lane. Okay. And so at this point, I told her she needs to leave. I'm filming this as well. You need to leave. This is illegal. I can't get to my house. I can't get to my children. She's like, I'm not leaving. So I called the sheriff again at this point. There was 2 calls. And I said, can you guys please hurry? She's now blocking my driveway. I can't get to my house. So they told me to stay on the line. I stayed on the line with 911 until the deputy showed up. He showed up. She was actively blocking my driveway and saw that I could not get into my property. So he had her pull forward. He had me get back in my car, had her pull forward enough that I could squeeze by. And then I went and waited at my house for him to talk to her. And then he came and talked to me. So that was the end of that incident. And I asked him, can I have her trespass? Can I press charges? He said the best course of action would be to get an anti-harassment order because I don't know why I couldn't trespass.
So if this happened before or something.
This was the second time I've ever had a personal face-to-face interaction with her. Okay. This is the second interaction.
What was the first one?
The one I mentioned back in September, October when she came and she showed me a video that she thought was my dog. I didn't think it was my dog.
Was there any conflict or harassment or threats or anything at that point?
At that point, yeah, she was talking about me buying a gate or a fence for her property. That I was going to pay for a fence if it kept happening. She kept mentioning I'm going to pay for a fence.
So do you share a property line?
No, she lives across the street.
Across the street.
Yeah.
So, all right. But a threat to harm. Were there any threats to harm you, property, family, dogs?
Just stalking me.
In October when you first met, or September, October when you first met, that discussion. So hold your peace there. You can only hear from one person at a time and you're interrupting the recording.
During that discussion?
Yeah. What happened then?
In October?
Talk to me.
That was just, we talked about the gate. We talked about the dogs. She just kept saying, if this is going to be a problem, then there's going to be court proceedings or something following. She basically made me feel intimidated and made me feel threatened by what she was saying.
As to maybe litigation or
yes.
something, animal control.
Yeah, without any, I felt like there was no proof that my dogs were even on her property. So it's just like.
All right. So that was the first event. It wasn't a good, friendly neighborly, but it was simply contain your dogs or maybe I'll sue you or get animal control or you got to build a fence. Maybe you need to build a fence for me so that if you're going to let your dogs go, is that kind of what,
Yeah.
All right. And then the next time, so no other contact, no.
But aside
seeing
from
each
her
other?
reports from the neighbors and from my father of her sitting in our driveway when we weren't home.
Okay, so that happened.
In between those two
Yeah.
time frames, several times.
Okay, so several times means how many do you think?
I can tell you at least 4.
Okay, so about 4 times. She's in her vehicle in your driveway, just sitting.
Sitting right by my house.
All right. And any discussion after all that? Any contact after all that before February 24th?
No.
No. No
Aside
letters,
from
no nothing?
aside from animal control.
Okay,
There was
so animal control shows up around when?
I want to say it was like towards the end of October.
Okay.
Or middle or end of October. I'm not exactly sure on the date. I wasn't there when they showed up. They spoke to my wife.
Okay. All right. And so they show up, talk to them. And then between October and February, 4 times, you understand, she's in her vehicle sitting in your driveway.
Yes.
Okay. And no, not coming up to the door, knocking on the door, no leaving a note, no nothing.
Nothing.
No emails, no texting, no nothing.
Nothing.
Okay. And then all of a sudden on February 24th, your neighbor's in your driveway in her car, honking her horn, refusing to leave up to a dozen
Cursing at me,
times.
yes.
Okay. And all right.
And then the next day,
25th?
February 25th, I received a phone call from an ex-coworker of mine whom I hadn't spoke to in a long time. And he asked me if I knew of a Karina Harris, and I was like, yeah, why? She had reached out to him on Facebook. Mind you, I don't know this woman, so I don't know how she knows my last name, none of that. I introduced my first name, that's it. So somehow she found him on my Facebook because we're mutual friends on Facebook, and she wrote him a message to give to me, but he didn't even reply or show her that she could see the message, because you can view a message without letting the sender know that you've seen it on social media. And so she wrote him asking if he can send me a message for her. And then she sent the message, and it was a bunch of slandering me, talking about my criminal record and how I'm going to pay for her fence and how she's already had to spend $700 on a small fence in her backyard, and how I already have basically almost word for word, I already have criminal charges. Do I want more because I can't contain my dogs and they're a threat to public safety and that, or human safety, and that I have no regard for human safety because of my past. She was bringing up my past criminal record. So she's literally, I don't understand what my criminal record has to do with my dogs being in her yard, but she's running background checks on me, following me on social media, reaching out to coworkers, which my coworker said he doesn't know her. He's never met her, doesn't know how she got his information to even talk to me. He even offered to come here if I needed him to, but he said he doesn't even know that woman. So at that point, I was terrified. She's running background checks on me. She's making accusations. She's slandering, basically calling into question my character. So what's going to stop her from reaching out to my boss next time, or the company I'm working for? Like, I don't know how she's even finding this information out about me. So I'm terrified.
So what animals do you own?
I have a German Shepherd and it's like a pit bull mix.
Okay. All right. 2 dogs.
Well, we have a third one
be,
too, but the third one was not involved in this.
And so that doesn't seem to be part of the aggravation.
Right.
These 2 are the.
And again,
that are
each
being
time, so animal control's been in our house twice now, and both times they said she has not provided any proof for them to give us a ticket or any formal complaint.
Right. So I'm going to turn to Ms. Harris, but what do you anticipate I'm going to hear from her?
I honestly don't know. Probably calling into question my character and bringing up my background, which has nothing to do with this.
Okay. Anything about the dogs, or?
She's probably going to try and say they're dangerous, but I mean, we've lived in this house for 4 years.
4 years?
And she just moved in last year, and we haven't had 0 problems with anybody around us until she moved in.
Why would you think she would say you have dangerous dogs?
That's what she wrote in the message, that my dogs were dangerous and that I don't have any regard for human safety.
Okay. Is there some allegation of them attacking her family, animals?
Animal control never said anything about them being threatening to anybody, or they would have given us a ticket or further. They closed their investigations each time they met our dogs. They came to our house and our dogs were out in the yard.
What did animal control say they were there for? Did they tell you what the substance?
Well,
of the
apparently it's
complaint
anonymous, but they said that our dogs were at large.
was? Okay.
They said it's anonymous. And then they also, the animal control lady this most recent time said that she feels, in her opinion, she can see how these are it's like harassment, her complaints. They said they can see a form of harassment in the complaints they're getting about our dogs.
So do you know how many complaints have been sent to animal control about your dogs?
As far as I know, the two. They've been to our house twice. And like I said, each time, because normally there's a process, you get a warning and then you get ticketed.
Okay.
And each time they've talked to us, but they haven't given us a warning or a ticket because they said you have to have a time-stamped and dated picture. You have to have proof. And
So
they said
are you-
she's not
Are
provided
you
any
under
proof.
any restrictions from animal control?
No, none.
And so, and two times have just been that the animals are at large.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you understand. All right, let me turn to, anything else before I turn to Ms. Harris?
I saw in her table of contents or whatever she
Mhm.
submitted something about an Amazon dog bite or something.
Mhm.
Again, that further terrifies me because I have no clue how she would know anything about that. There was an incident
What's
between
that?
our dog and an Amazon delivery driver that was closed. Animal control was not involved. There was no
Do you know
legal
when that
proceedings.
happened?
What was that?
When did that about?
I want to say beginning of October,
Okay, of 24,
like October 1st, around there.
2024?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and something happened, Amazon came to.
Yeah, something
deliver
happened with Amazon and our dog, and it was not public information. I don't know how she knows about that. And I noticed the other day she has a camera pointing right down my driveway. So I think she's literally watching us 24/7 now. Like, I'm convinced of it. I'm terrified that she's watching my house all the time, waiting for my dogs to walk down my driveway. Like, how she would know about that, I have no idea. That's between us and Amazon. I don't know how she got any information on it. It's scary, to be honest. It just adds to all this, reaching out to my coworkers, looking at my social media, reaching out to people off my
So
social
it looks
media.
like, is this your partner or your wife?
That's my
She's
wife.
raising her. Is she a witness that you want to call?
Yeah,
Okay. So why don't you come up? I'll put you under oath. I'll hear from you, and then I'll finally turn to Ms. Harris. Nope, right there. And raise your right hand. And you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
All right. Why don't you have a seat and tell me your name?
Elizabeth Barrett.
Elizabeth Barrett.
Yes.
And you are married to Mr. Barrett.
Mhm.
Okay. And you live at this residence that we're talking about?
Yes.
And you're the owner as well of these two dogs
The
that are
dogs and the
upset?
Amazon account.
Okay, so what is it I should know about your request? I mean, Mr. Barrett is the only one I remember named on this order for protection.
I wrote in her and my father, Your Honor. I didn't really know how to go about it. I just wanted everybody in our house protected from being
Okay.
harassed by her.
And then the 4 kids.
Yeah.
And you share these kids?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so tell me from your perspective what I need to know about this request for an order against Ms. Harris.
Well, I've known about the surveillance system that she has pointed at our house.
How do you know
because
about it?
You could see the light on it at nighttime, and then if it gets a little dim in the daytime or in the mornings, you can see the light. It is the kind of camera that hunters use to watch animals. And so since this incident with Amazon was from the driver not using the alert system to let us know they were coming, and she was in our doorway. So when
Who
this
was in your
incident-
doorway?
The Amazon driver.
Okay,
So when this incident happened, it was in my doorway, which would be not something that you could easily capture without that surveillance system. So that would be the only way that she would know about this incident.
And Ms.
because
Harris
it was
would know.
it was my complaint. The incident was opened because the driver came to my doorway and way further than somebody delivering stuff should be at. So this incident should not have been public information. It's just simply from the constant surveillance of my home.
all right. All right, so I'm going to turn to Ms. Harris at this stage. Ms. Harris, now's your time to respond to this request. There's a temporary order in effect, and your opportunity to respond as to why the court, I presume you don't want this order and why the court shouldn't allow it to go farther.
Okay, first of all, let me address Amazon. Amazon seen their dogs in my yard so many times they quit delivering to me because the dangerous dogs, because there was a dog bite. So I had to explain to Amazon that they are not my dogs. So I actually got cut off for deliveries because of that dog bite, because the driver sees the dogs in my yard. That's how I found out about Amazon, for one. Two, the camera they're speaking of is a rodent and like coyote control. It is a little thing you stick in the ground because I'm trying to deter her dogs from coming in my yard. So if something comes close to it, it makes a noise, goes, and it flashes red. That is not a surveillance camera. That is simply, it detects motion, makes noise and a light to trying to deter their dogs from coming in my yard. I have got it on all four corners of the acre property, trying to keep the dogs out of my yard. That is not a camera. I could go pull it right out of the ground right now. I've got them in all four corners and also at the driveway. So there's that. Animal control. The reason they have not heard anything back is because the case is still open. Animal control has called me. They said they're taking further measures and they will call me when the case is closed. When he says they don't have any videos or pictures, that is false. In the first case, the officer told me that my video proof was not sent correctly, so he didn't get it with the report. And I will tell you, I have dozens of ring cam videos of their dogs. And I have been to their house 3 times and 3 times only. And the 3 times I matched them up with my ring cam videos. And I'm going over there only for one reason only, is to have them come get their dogs. The other thing I want to bring awareness to is through their entire petition, they talk about I was drunk every single time. And I'm sure that they have looked at the evidence, what he just said, and that I have my 911 call and videotaped him what he did when I came to his house. He's the real danger. Their dogs are dangerous. This is a serious situation. And the last thing I am is drunk. I am terrified and I am very upset. So why no mention of being drunk today when their entire petition is about I'm so-called drunk? I am there because their dogs are in my yard and it's dangerous. And on October 30th, they say I was at their house. Oh, by the way, those 3 times that I've been there, I don't get out of my vehicle. Their dogs are loose. Why would I get out of my yard? I'm sorry, my car. I'm there to have them come get their dogs. And I have all the ring cams from it. And they have not heard back from animal control because besides me, there's 2 other cases that are open. Animal control did tell me that. I don't have them for court. I'm sorry I couldn't submit it for evidence because I did request the public records, but I got an email back that it could take up till April 21st to get. And so I am not trying to search them and do things.
Step you back so you say you've been to their property 3 times. So do you agree it was around September and October and then February of this year?
Not in the middle time.
Well, why don't you start me out? Your 3 times. Start me out with the first and then go to the second and then the third.
I didn't want to talk to them because it started to be a problem. And so I put up those animal deterrents to see if that could do it. Because I did see there was a coyote also coming around. So it was like their dogs, the coyote is why I put them up. I was really hoping that would work. And honestly, I didn't want to get to know them because we moved in and in September.
So tell me when you first had contact with anyone. Talk me through those 3 times.
So what I was going to tell you was the sheriffs came, like 8 sheriffs came and surrounded their house when I was getting ready to go talk to him. So I was kind of nervous about it, but I did it anyways because the dogs came again. And the sheriff.
And when was that, do you think?
That was in September. So I did go over because the dogs came back again. And I was like, I really didn't, because Sheriffs gave me a card and said, if you see Aaron or a white car, please call us. We stayed our mind business. I didn't call the sheriffs when they were around. And
You went over in September and
and I-
your conversation was with who?
yeah, it wasn't until this time that I said that I was going to sue them for offense, which I am.
Well,
That is
step
true.
back, what was that first meeting? Tell me
It
all
was
about that first
It
meeting.
was fine, actually. He was polite. He said, yeah, it's a problem. Yeah, it's a problem. And we're trying to get money together to put a fence up and they shouldn't be in your yard. I was pleased with the conversation. And I stressed to him that I'm nervous. Like I have a 23-pound corgi. And he goes with me everywhere I go. We walk out the door. This last time, the pit bull and German Shepherd were at my front door and at my car door. This is going to end up in a bad scenario.
When was the second time that you had contact with
The second time, which I sent you the video, I went to let my dog outside and the German Shepherd was like 20 feet away and I didn't see, he came out from the side of the house and I didn't see him. And the German Shepherd did run, but my little guy, when he's at home, he's protective. So my little guy took after him. And then
when about was this, do you think?
This was October 30th. The same.
Okay. So did you have contact with either of the Barretts?
Okay. So no, they didn't come to their door. I went to their house, which is true. I did go and I had showed you that video. It's time stamped on the 30th and they didn't answer. They didn't come out. I came to the house.
Stayed in your car or your vehicle.
Yes.
And what did you do to get anybody's attention? I
called animal control and I sent them the videos and that was why animal control went there. I also sent you the receipt October 31st.
But step back, you're not answering. I really need some help here. So on October 30th, you go over in your car. How did you get anybody's attention, any of the Barrett's attention?
Nobody came out.
But so you just went over, sat and hoped somebody would come outside?
I just honked the horn, nobody came out and I left.
All right. So and then since then, the Barretts think that you've been there about 4 times before about February. So you tell me, what do you think?
It didn't happen. The only other time is I drove up to their mailbox because animal control, I needed the address and I wasn't positive what the address was. So I just drove over and to their mailbox because I was doing the report for animal control. Any other time, I have never been to their property ever.
Okay. So then in the petition, there are these allegations that family members see you there. Let's see, where is it?
Didn't happen, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. And then February 24th, we've heard from Mr. Barrett. What's your recollection?
So February 24th. Oh, sorry. I was thinking the earlier date. Okay. So February 24th, what happened was I looked out my window because my dog was freaking out and, the dogs were right up at the house. We would have walked out the door. It'd have been a bad scenario because my dog always goes from the door right into my Jeep and waits for me to open the door. You know what I mean? It's like, it would have been catastrophe. And so I called 911, which you have my 911 call. And they said if it's not an active attack, there's nothing that they can do, but they said what we need to do is transfer you to animal control. I got voicemail animal control. So then the dogs went around to my side yard and I sent you a picture of the dogs behind my Jeep. And because a ring cam catches everything. These guys say there's no evidence. It's like I have dozens of videos. And so I got in my car and I went up to his house. And if Your Honor, he said to you earlier that his dogs were with him. If you look at the police report and the evidence, he even told the police officers, kids, let the dogs out. I mean, the dogs were loose.
What do you remember happened? So you call animal control, you've got, go on.
In the car and I went to pulled in their driveway. I honked the horn. He opened the door and he yelled, my kids let him out. And he shut the door again. He said, my kids let him out. So he shut the door. Well, I've had to buy a fence at that October 30th that happened. The October 31st, I sent you the.
So let me hone in on the 24th. So,
Right.
you stayed on your property, or where did you do? Where did you go?
I got in my Jeep when they went around the side property, because they usually, when they come through, they'll go out and go down the other street, Green Ridge. So once they left, I got in my vehicle. And because 911, I got a voicemail at animal control. So I drove up to their house. I go out the driveway. It's kind of like kitty corner. And I go in the driveway and I honked the horn. He opened the door. He said, my kids let him out. And he went back in and shut the door. Well, I had more to say to let him know, like, this is getting scary. Like, if I would have came out that door with my dog, we would have had a direct encounter. And instead of talking to me, he shuts the door. He comes out of his house and he's from his deck and he's narrated alcohol involved, intoxication, and starts creating this scene that's not the scene and starts filming me because he knew darn well exactly why I was there, because his dogs were out. He knew why I was there. And so he was claiming that I was drunk. And then he said he was going to call the police. And then I'm there because I'm terrified to death of their dogs. I'm truly terrified. So I said, you know what? I am not drunk. I will stay. I will stay. I will stay for the sheriff. So he ends up backing out, which, Your Honor, this is during school hours. I never saw any kids. That's all I'm saying. And why would he leave his house if kids were really in the house terrified? But that's whatever. Maybe people do that. So he leaves and goes to the road. I'm pulling out and he's videotaping me and I'm trying to talk to him. And then he said he called the sheriff and I looked and the sheriff was coming. So I backed up and I was like, I'm waiting right here. You say I'm drunk. I am not drunk. I want proof. I want a sheriff to see that I am not drunk because these two that are in court, in front of your court, they have like
So
three.
then you back up and the sheriff arrives, and what happens?
And he talked to me and he said, well, clearly you're not drunk. And I said, no. And Your Honor, if I was drunk like the report says, why would an officer let me drive home? Because I wasn't.
I'm not concerned so much about that. But so the sheriff comes, you have an opportunity to talk to the sheriff.
Yes.
And then somehow, how does this all resolve that day?
He was very nice. He said, thank you for waiting. I said, I'm here because he's saying I'm drunk and I'm terrified of his dogs. And he said, well, I thank you for waiting. And then he said, I'm going to go talk to him. Then the sheriff came back the next day and he saw that I said, look, I've even put up a fence. And he said, yeah, you really need to stay on top of this with animal control. And his words exactly were to me. Mr. Barrett seems to think that his defense is that his kids let his dogs out. And he's not getting it that he's responsible.
So what happened on the 25th? So you're talking to the officer on the 25th. He said They came back out. Why did they come back out on the 25th?
He came to let me know that he talked to what happened when he went and talked to him.
Okay.
Because he sent me home. You know what I'm saying? After he talked to me, he sent me home. And then he said he would follow up with me later. So he personally came over and was super nice and said, you know, he doesn't get it. He thinks because his kids let the dogs out that it's like he's not responsible. And them saying this isn't their dog. I have endless videos. It's their dogs.
So it's been about 3 weeks since the last kind of contact about all this you've had, or?
Yes.
not?
And here's what I can promise you. I will never go on their property again. Animal control is taking it very serious and we're taking it very serious because it's gotten to a point where it's serious. I mean, something bad's going to happen. And also the report was mostly written by his wife, which she's never been there. I've never even seen her. So, and I mean, what this feels like is retaliation for me calling animal control. And this is even more proof they don't want to take responsibility for having control of their animals.
Let me ask you a question. So you say that you're terrified of these two dogs, the German Shepherd and the Pit Bull mix, and kind of map out for me why you feel that.
Because one, my little dog, he goes to daycare, he goes to parks, everything. But when it's what I didn't know this until their dogs came around, and even the coyote, he charges them. So like, it's just a bad combination. So even if their dog didn't attack my dog first, my little dog is protective. Something bad's going to happen. Or it could be us. I don't know their dogs. So I don't know if they're nice dogs, bad dogs, whatever they're on. They don't want trespassing on their property. How about the trespassing of their dogs? Like, problem solved.
So so fortunately your dog hasn't been attacked. You haven't been attacked. Is that right? But you say they've been on your front porch.
No, I don't have a porch. They were literally this time why I went over there and why I was honking the horn for him to come back out is to let him know that this time, because before they would usually come in the backyard, which I've already put up a gate to stop them. I put up the flickering lights, which is not camera. It's to deter animals. That's all it is. It's not a camera. My ring cams are connected places on my property, but it's not the one that they're talking about that sees their house. That's an animal deterrent. So I've put up small fencing, I've put up a gate, I have animal deterrents, I've involved animal control. Like, I've done everything under the sun that I could possibly do to keep their dogs out of my yard. That's the only reason I was at their house.
So at this stage, then, you've put up some sort of fence, and is there any other?
If you look and you can see the picture of it, what it is, it's an full acre property. I just put a smaller fence up on the October 31st, the day after the chase with their dog. And the same day they say they went to their house. Yes, I did, because of that video. The next day I bought fencing. It's just so my dog can go out to the bathroom safe, and if their dog happens to be there, my dog doesn't chase their dog, vice versa. It's just to have a safe boundary. I've already done that. And I feel this whole thing is just retaliation, because I did say, now that it's happened again, now I'm going to sue you for fencing. Because what more can I do? And Amazon won't even deliver to me because they saw my dogs in here because they had a dog bite. And that's how I knew about Amazon. I had explained to Amazon that I'm doing everything I can to keep the dogs off my property. And because
you talk about an Amazon dog bite, what does that mean? I don't know what that's about.
Amazon got bit, the Amazon driver got bit by their dog. And then Amazon saw their dogs in my yard. So that Amazon driver didn't feel comfortable delivering to me. That's how I knew about this Amazon stuff, because I had to explain to Amazon to get my packages that I'm doing everything I can to keep those dogs away. And they have yet, Aaron, when I talked to him in September, they said they were going to put up fencing. There's still yet any fencing. And you know what, Your Honor? It's not only just like, it's everybody's protection. Those dogs are going to cause an accident or they're going to get hit. Like, they just let them go.
All right. Let me just kind of review what I'm looking at here. I'll turn back if I have any further questions here.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Mr. Barrett, Ms. Barrett, Ms. Harris. So what I have to find under the law, I can't find to issue an order. What I have to find under the law is that there's a course of conduct committed by Ms. Harris against the two of you with the intent to cause harm. It's like to go back and read it out, but that it causes substantial emotional distress and serves no legitimate or lawful purpose. Now, I can see you don't like that your neighbor is coming onto your property and honking her horn, but now I'm hearing more from the other side. It makes some sense why she's there, not wanting to get out of the car, not wanting to confront two big dogs who she doesn't know. So often we have requests from folks in the county about neighbors' dogs. I mean, this pipes up a lot of stuff. There have to be some ways that if you're all going to live in this neighborhood, to communicate, maybe get the dogs introduced, maybe not, I don't know. You're all dog owners. You know that better than the court about your dogs. But that's the problem, is everybody has to control their dogs so that your neighbors aren't aggravated. And I don't find that Ms. Harris is committing harassment such that it's unlawful or illegitimate behavior, that she's coming over and honking her horn to get your attention because she doesn't want to get out and confront two dogs, so who are known to run loose. But I cannot find that Ms. Harris is committing harassment as it's defined under the law. So I'm denying the order ends today. There will not be an order going forward.
Do you mind if I ask a question then?
Go ahead.
At what point, if it's not talking about a solution that she wants, simply money, are we able to then ask that she not be able to keep coming over and that's her own solution?
Well, I think you've told each other, you know, you have to respect each other's limits. And if you don't want someone on your property, then say that. But you got to figure this out. If you're going to live across from each other, you got to figure this out. You don't want to be aggravated forever.
Ever before.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's okay to then tell us if you don't feel safe. But she's
I think you've heard it.
however long, however much time, and then coming to our house and saying, I want money. Okay, that's nice.
Well,
but our dogs are
don't
not out
leave
when
it there.
she's coming
Don't
to
leave
our
it there
house.
and don't get into an argument. You know, it sounds like you've got some room to work together.
Not
but
much,
if
just that
we can
we
get
can't
that
afford to
emotion
be going to
down.
court for something where we just want left alone, like.
Well,
we
but
feel
also
at
you
risk.
got, I think there's a valid reason here why she's in your driveway honking the horn to get your attention.
More than
so-
however many times she says.
And I'm not arguing about it. What I'm saying is they're two big dogs she's afraid of. And
That's not
they're
when she's
on the
coming over.
loose. Well, that's what I'm finding. So
And reaching
I
out to our
hope that
employers and everything.
instead of
It's-
arguing
that
with
is
me,
harmful.
find a way to talk to your neighbor. Find a way to talk to your neighbor. Don't argue with me. You've got to deal with each of your animals. You got to deal with each other. You both want to stay where you are. Sounds like nice places. So find a way. If the corgi's corgis may be small, but they're scrappy. So
Yes.
I don't want anybody's dogs to get hurt. But that's where we are. The issue is trying to communicate about these dogs. It's not harassment. So
I'm
that's it
more
today.
than willing for that, Your Honor, because this for the
All right.
sake of all the animals.
There you go. So you got at least one opening there, maybe. And you can be on your way. And I just wish you good
Thank you.
luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So long.
Work it off in a dispute with another party such as this, and you just can't seem to work it out. Don't resort to taking the law in your own hands.
We'll hear the litigants'